right, so Dean Cain is this actor from long and long ago, from the 90s. So he used to play Superman. He had some things to say about a recent Superman controversy. Former Superman Dean Cain complains about woke Hollywood making character too pro-immigration. The fact is, the reason that this is a conversation in the first place is because Superman is an immigrant. He's an undocumented immigrant, right? Isn't he? He came from Krypton, illegally, by the way, did not ask permission of the United States, and he lived here with undocumented, with no paper trail for who knows how long. And it turns out he is anti-crime, so how about that? Anyway, Dean Cain, he played Superman in an old Superman show, I think called Lois and Clark from like 93 to 97. Now, a lot of people don't realize this, but Dean Cain has been pro-Trump for a very long time. The right is absolutely losing their minds over the Superman thing right now. Check this out. This is Jesse Waters and Kellyanne Conway on it.
And I went to the Yankees at Mets game yesterday at Citi Field. Go Yanks. And you should see the people sitting for the national anthem for God Bless America. It's really just, I can't believe that we've come down to that. And I don't know, we don't go to the movie theater to be lectured to and to have somebody throw their ideology onto us. I wonder if it'll be successful.
You know what it says on his cape? MS-13.
Wow.
Is it superimposed or it actually says that?
It does not say MS-13. Come on.
It is super. Just on the knuckles.
Super
One more thing is up next.
It was a joke, kind of.
By the way, guys, check out my new shop, owenmorgan.com/shop. I have a bunch of really cool designs on there.
Former Superman Dean Cain complains about woke Hollywood making character too pro-immigration. Dean Cain, who played the kid from Krypton in the series Lois and Clark in The New Adventures of Superman from 93 to 97, confessed in a Wednesday video interview with TMZ that he has some reservations over James Gunn's new version of the hero. Hold on. What's this?
Well, what cracks me up is that people don't like Superman. He was traditionally called the Big Blue Boy Scout. And Superman's inherent weakness is his goodness.
Yeah, that's correct. So yeah, you're making my point for me right now. What are you talking about?
I mean, sorry, those are great values in my opinion. You know, and I root for that. To see people picking on Superman and Jesse Waters making a funny comment about the cape saying MS-13, he wasn't talking about the character, in my opinion. I think he was talking about, I know Jesse well and I love him. I think he's great and funny, but he makes.
Oh God, dude, no. Jesse Waters is a scumbag. He was married to a woman, Jesse Waters was. You know how he met his current wife? He was married to somebody.
Oh God.
And he really wanted to sleep with this other person at the office. So he let the air out of her tires so that she would be forced to ask him for a ride. And he would be able to, like, you know, talk her into going back to his house with him.
Someone in his family was military.
Jesse Waters?
No, in his.
Dean Cain's?
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
Because look at the back. He has the flag.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway.
It makes sense for his personality.
I suppose so. All right, let's continue.
It's great political points with some snark, and it's great, and I think it's wonderful. And the point I think he was making about the MS-13 thing on his cape was, how woke is Hollywood going to make this character? How much is Disney going to change their Snow White?
Okay, you think that Hollywood likes MS-13, the gang, and they want to make people into MS-13 supporters? What are you smoking?
Going to make this character? How much is Disney going to change their Snow White? Why are they going to change these characters that exist, for the times? For Superman, it was truth, justice, and the American way. Well, they dropped that. In fact, they let it go.
They did? You think that Superman doesn't stand for truth or stand for justice or the American way anymore?
It depends what you consider the American way.
Yeah, I think that at the time it probably meant like capitalism, and it probably meant the opposite of like the Soviet Union, because it was pretty big during the Red Scare, I believe.
Apparently his dad was military.
Okay, there you go.
That trademark on that goes. So it's out there, and they came up with truth, justice, and a better tomorrow.
Also, Snow White. Who cares about Snow White and what they do with the Snow White movie? If you don't like it, then don't go watch it. What is wrong with you? Like, what's broken in these people's heads?
changing beloved characters, I don't think is a great idea. I think if you want to create a new character, go ahead and do that. But
Okay, but he's gonna get really mad when they create a new character.
Yes, and also, what made him think that Superman was anti-immigration? I don't understand. What gave him that idea? Why does he think that it has to be a different character for this character to be pro-immigration? You know why? It's because he identifies with Superman as not just the actor that played him, but also as a young kid that grew up around this time period who liked comics. A lot of kids identified with Superman. And this being pro-immigration or being not hateful toward immigration over anything doesn't match up with his personality at all. It doesn't make sense to him. He can't connect with it at all. It's sad. Honestly, really, truly, deeply sad.
for me, Superman has always stood for truth, justice, the American way. And the American way is immigrant friendly, tremendously immigrant friendly, but there are rules. You can't come in saying, I want to get rid of all the rules in America because I want it to be more like Somalia.
Okay, well, first of all, no one said that at any point. And second, yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. You can come in and say whatever you want because that's free speech. That is the American way. Free speech. Being allowed to say whatever we want for any reason at any time. Being opposed to free speech is anti-American, which this guy is exhibiting perfectly. He doesn't seem to understand the values that America has stood for all of these years.
Well, that doesn't work because you had to leave Somalia to come here to make America smart.
Okay, well, maybe just give it a shot then. Let them say it at the very least, if they want. Also, no one's doing this. This is fictitious trash that he's just like making up.
It doesn't make any sense. And that just doesn't make any sense. If people are coming for economic opportunity, well, let's take a look at your government too and why you don't have that economic opportunity. What are the things that are going on there? And if you're coming, and then have to be limits because we can't have everybody here in the United States. Everybody can't come here.
Okay, well, a lot of people could absolutely come here and it would strengthen our economy like mad. The more people are added to an economy, the stronger the economy is and the more money flows, the more velocity money has, is what it's called. So it's actually a good thing to have more people added. We could probably multiply the number of people who were coming in under Biden and under Donald Trump by a factor of 200, 300, 400, 500 for a sustained period of 5 years, and we would be fine. There would be no ill effects. The only reason people don't want immigration is racism. That's it. That's the only reason anybody would have for not wanting immigration.
We can't. Our society will fail. So there have to be limits. And
how will our society fail?
The Congress is supposed to make those limits, and then the executive branch is supposed to follow those laws and enforce those laws.
Well, I don't understand. What would cause problems for society? How would society fail? What's the downside? Tell me the downside. The guy is looking for an excuse to hate people and pretending to be a reasonable centrist. There is no good reason to deny people entry into the United States. There is only bad outcome. Anyway, it doesn't surprise me to find that Dean Cain is a complete scumbag because I've known that for a long time.
People who are coming here from whatever country generally aren't getting into the US and going, I want it to be exactly like my home country. If it's not like my home country, I hate it. Because they'd go back to their home country if they could. Right,
and people can advocate for a country to change any way they want because they live here. It's their country too. It's their right. It's their life. It's their thing. That's what makes America great. Our ability to say and do what we want without fear of repression or government censorship or whatever else. But Dean Cain's been a nutcase for a long time. He was actually involved in the God's Not Dead movies as well. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. Are you?
Yeah, I haven't watched them, but I remember when you and Tori were binging them.
Yeah, I believe that this is a new video, or I'm sorry, a new God's Not Dead movie that he was in recently, and he's doing a media tour about it. This is him on Flashpoint doing that media tour, and this is like the lead actor next to him from the movie.
Absolutely. All right. In God we trust. Tell me about that one.
Well, again, God is not in the Constitution. He's
That's correct.
never mentioned in the Constitution, but he is mentioned in the Declaration of Independence, in the Pledge of Allegiance, and on our currency, which is in God we trust. So it's clearly a part. God has clearly been a part of the founding of this nation.
You know what's funny about this? All that stuff was added way, way later. The pledge didn't get in God we trust, or under God. I mean, it didn't get under God added to it until like 1960 something. The money did not get, or the paper currency didn't get under God or in God we trust added until 1960.
What about the Declaration of Independence?
The Declaration of Independence says, all right, I'm going to have to go off on a tangent for this one. Give me a second. The Declaration of Independence says, basically, what was it? It was just, all right, this is I don't know if you guys remember this. Project 2025 had training videos leak forever ago, and I covered a bunch of them at the time. This is from one of those training videos. This is their understanding of the mention of God in the Declaration of Independence.
Ultimately, they chose to ground their claims upon nature, a more philosophically and more fundamental ground that was a defense of rights behind Magna Carta, behind and beyond the rights of Englishmen to their rights as humans. And so they turned to nature as the ground for the claim of rights, the ground upon which they would make their claims of independence.
That is what the Constitution, or I'm sorry, what the Declaration of Independence meant when it said all men have rights granted by God or whatever. It didn't mean that God granted the rights. What they meant was something outside of government gave the rights. People had those rights independent of government, uniquely, because the Magna Carta granted people those rights. Magna Carta being from like the 1400s or whatever, the foundational document that kind of formed out our understanding of human rights today. Anyway, the point is that the founding document, or I'm sorry, that the Declaration of Independence specifically and explicitly mentioned God because it wanted people to have those rights, whether government granted them or not. That's the point. That's the only time it's mentioned, basically, in the founding documents. The only time God is mentioned in any of the founding documents. Metal money, like gold coins, 2-cent pieces, stuff like that, that got in God we trust as far back as 1865. But paper money, there was a big push in the 1960s to add God to everything, to fight the godless communists during the Red Scare. And in 1960 to 65, it was added to the money and the pledge and the everything else. Anyway, Dean Cain is kind of shouting out to that, but doesn't seem to even understand that.
Clearly a part. God has clearly been a part of the founding of this nation, and so
he really wasn't. It was the exact opposite.
That's that's where the title comes from, and because people are do we trust in God? Are we saying that? So help me God.
Right.
Do you swear on the Bible? Do you say God bless America? God.
That's because those phrases and things have become culturally significant in the past because a lot of Christians are here. Does not mean that the country itself was founded on Christianity.
Right, and again, it got intensely Christian, like just back in the 1960s, not that long ago. Intensely Christian in retaliation to the Red Scare.
That's
in retaliation against communism. What is it?
That's like saying that someone has to be Christian or that their country is Christian because they said bless you when you sneezed.
Right.
Zero correlation to their country.
Right. It's not about the country being Christian. And again, like the United States was intentionally, specifically set up to be a non-Christian, secular country. Intentionally, because the people that came here were fleeing religious persecution. The Church of England controlled things with an iron grip, and they didn't want to live in an environment where the church persecuted people anymore. They wanted to have the option to live their lives the way that they want to live them. I don't know if people knew this, but John Adams was, as one of the people, well, one of the founding fathers or whatever. He was a religious nutcase, uniquely among the other founding fathers. Like, there were not very many of them that were religious nutcases. Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, they were not religious nutcases like John Adams was. But John Adams, he was involved a little bit in writing the Constitution, and he kept putting religious stuff in. And they kept telling him to stop it. And they kept throwing out the draft that he added to and starting over because they didn't want religious stuff in the Constitution, specifically and intentionally. It's not by pure chance that there's nothing about God in the Constitution. That was for a reason. So the point is, all of this nonsense about the founding fathers being religious nutcases is just that. It's trash.
Some of the people that are saying those things are precisely the people who are trying to get God out of schools and out of people's lives. It's a weird contradiction. So I think it's a very
it's a call to action and a reminder of the freedoms that our country was built upon.
Yeah.
And bringing
the freedoms that our country was built upon was the freedom to practice our religion the way that we want to practice our religion, without having other people interfere with it or try to impose their own beliefs or practices on it. What our founders intended is the antithesis of what these people are trying to do.
God back into the schools, into the communities, into the government and our churches.
God was never removed from our communities or our churches. God has always been welcome into all of those places. That's not the problem. The problem is you're trying to force God into those places. You're trying to force children to worship your specific interpretation of God. That's the problem. You want to force children to learn about God in school. When, I don't want my kid to learn about your God in school. I will send my kid to church for that, the church that I choose. You're taking my rights by doing this.
Not to mention our churches. That was weird. That was a weird time when the churches were shut down and not allowed.
Oh, but give it a rest.
What is he referring to?
COVID. He's referring to COVID. There was never, at any point, ever, any church shut down during COVID. There were churches who were told, some churches, by states, by the way, not by the government, the federal government, some states said, you have to do one of three things as a church. Either hold services outside, or space chairs out 6 feet and take temperatures at the door, or hold services on Zoom. One of those three things. And these poor little snowflakes couldn't handle the fact that they have to protect society in some way, any way at all. They have a responsibility to the people around them to make sure that they don't get other people sick. They couldn't handle that. It was too much for them. So now they're pretending that their churches were shut down. Like the victims that they are, these poor victims. These people disgust me, honestly. What broke in their heads that got them to this point?
I do know my church, people stopped going. People stopped going to the church that I went to growing up during COVID. And I don't remember anyone ever complaining and saying, oh, this is terrible and the government's taking away our freedom of whatever. I don't even think there was one super ultra religious nutcase who was very open about being like that. It was Bonnie.
Oh yeah, she's a nutcase. She was always a nutcase.
I don't think she ever sat there and was like yelling about the government taking away her freedoms. I think she's the one who chose to not maintain service during COVID.
She's certainly one of those people, but that's because it took a little bit of time for it to crystallize, for the narrative to form. Everybody, including Bonnie, including all the right-wing nutcases, realized that it was important to protect people from getting sick by not attending church physically in person or holding it outside or spacing the chairs out, at the very least. Everyone realized that, and it wasn't until 6 months later or so, when it was all over already, that people started complaining about how the government shut churches down. Like, no, the government didn't shut any churches down. Churches chose not to show up in most cases. And there were like 2 cases of local municipalities that would fine a church if they didn't space chairs out or whatever. It was almost a non-existent problem. But, you know, these people are going to complain and be persecuted minorities because that's what they crave so much.
In California.
And I was going to mention, you know, with COVID, that's really when we were watching PureFlix more than ever because we were stuck at home.
Do you know PureFlix?
Mm-mm.
PureFlix is Netflix for Christians. It is all Christian movies all the time.
I mean, it's a good way to find the movies you like, I guess.
Yeah. And this guy here, basically PureFlix produces like most of their own content, but it's a full streaming service with an app and everything. And this guy is like their lead actor for every one of their movies practically. And Dean Cain is on there a lot too. And it's just, God, it's so cringy and painful and sad.
You know, so I would imagine you had a lot of growth during that time for families going, hey, I need something my kids can watch that's not going to freak everybody out.
Well, they couldn't go to church for that.
Yeah.
But they
Give it a rest. They couldn't go to church, he says. Please.
I want to say they're like, oh, well, families were trying to watch blah, 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 blah. That wouldn't freak everybody out. I want to say there was not a single thing I watched that would have freaked them out in 2020 just because it's normal stuff. But I did binge watch a really gay TV show simply for the fact that I heard it was gay.
Highly homosexual, you say?
Highly homosexual.
Okay.
could go to the liquor stores and to the, and
Home Depot.
Home Depot. Yeah,
Yeah.
But you can't go to church.
Yeah.
That was a weird time.
All right. So what's
Just, God, these people are so full of it. Didn't they literally just say this? Why are they repeating
the
it?
future? I mean, you're talking to people here that we call them the Flashpoint Army. There's hundreds of thousands of people that watch us faithfully, and they need something
Watch faithfully. My God, what a thing to say.
to do.
Are you guys watching me faithfully?
They always tell me a project to go do. What do we need to do? Obviously, we want them to go see the movie when it comes out. But what else can they do to help perpetuate good movie making that isn't anti-God?
Yeah.
God, these people.
I mean,
They would hate my TV shows. They would absolutely hate every single thing I watch.
And that's why they are so loved, right?
I watched a show recently, binge watched it, and it was about an angel and a demon, and they're gay. They would be so incredibly
Ooh,
upset.
Boy, yeah, they would not be happy about that one.
And even better, God's a woman in it.
That's just straight up offensive.
okay, this is crazy. This is a crazy. There's estimated sources that say nearly 40 million American Christians don't vote in presidential.
That's correct.
Right.
Correct.
So we have
that changed the election.
It sure did.
Yeah, and so this is a call to action to say, hey, get involved. For many years, faith-based folks likes to like.
Oh, is that the end? Wow, that cut off abruptly. Anyway, yeah, tell me what you think about it in the comments. That is wild.
Someone said they like you enough, but they're not faithful.
That hurts my feelings. I'm sad.